School field trips are the days you live for as a child. It's the only time where you actually enjoy waking up early in the morning. And at my school, there was one specific field trip that stood out from the rest: science camp. A whole week spent in mountain cabins with your friends and no parents. It was an absolute dream come true. Until we actually got there. Many years later, I still struggle to explain what happened in those woods that night, but this is how I remember it. So at my school, we had a field trip called science camp, which was basically described as the most life-changing experience you would ever go on. Like whenever students would come back from this trip, they'd talk about it as if they just took a school bus to Mars. That's how much they hyped it up. Like it sounded something straight out of the Magic School Bus TV show. And you know what's crazy? The Magic School Bus could literally be anywhere right now. Like it could be inside your body. That's not good. But anyways, I'd been hearing about this trip since I was in 2nd grade. I have 2 older brothers, and they returned from this trip talking about crazy stories they had there, staying up late with their friends, seeing wild animals in the distance, and doing science experiments where they made stuff explode in the woods. They described it as having a sleepover with your best friends for a week straight with no rules. Each year, I'd watch the students board that yellow bus with their oversized backpacks, just imagining when it would be my turn. So when the day came when my teacher announced the field trip and passed out permission slips, I nearly fell out of my chair. I forged my mom's signature right then and there because I was so excited to go. But if I knew what I know now about those woods, I wouldn't have been nearly as excited as I was. Because when the field trip was announced, my friend group all met up with each other. We'd been making strategic plans for this field trip since we were in 4th grade. Sleeping arrangements, snacks we were gonna bring for the campfires, video games. Me and my friend almost got into a fist fight over who would get the top bunk bed. We settled it when he threatened to tell the whole school about the time where I wet the bed when I was sleeping over at his house. So he got the top bunk. The morning of the trip, I woke up at 4:30 a.m. out of excitement. Explain that to me, by the way. I feel like a zombie trying to wake up at 7 a.m. on most days, but all of a sudden, I can wake up at 4:30 a.m. all full of jolly and glee? I don't get it. But I got to school at 8, and the parking lot resembled the baggage claim of an airport. Kids stood everywhere with giant suitcases and sleeping bags, looking like they were getting ready to climb Mount Everest. And the bus ride there was insanity. Because keep in mind, this was the week all of us had been looking forward to since we were in the womb. So we were bouncing in the seats, throwing stuff, and we only calmed down when our female teacher activated her male voice and said, "Hey, if y'all keep misbehaving, we're gonna turn this bus around." Don't know where she learned how to do that. But anyways, when we finally navigated that winding mountain road and spotted the camp entrance, I started to get butterflies. Beyond the camp entrance, nestled among massive trees, there was log cabins that stood straight out of a movie. It was just like I had been imagining in all the stories I heard about this place. Once the bus came to a stop, we sprinted off, grabbing our belongings and heading straight to the cabin. But then, things started to go wrong. Although we were under supervision of our teachers, it felt like there were no rules. But surprise, surprise, mixing no rules with dumb young kids is a recipe for disaster. Because let's fast forward to nighttime now. We're all laying down in our bunk beds when all of a sudden, we hear our counselor start to snore. So we knew he was sleeping, which meant we could do something on our own now. And that's why we made a decision that seemed brilliant at the time, but would later make me terrified of the wilderness for the rest of my life. My friend whispered from the bunk across mine, "Guys, we should totally do something." It was barely past midnight, and there was absolutely zero chance that any of us were sleeping yet. We just spent the whole day getting oriented, learning camp rules, and setting up our cabins. But now, the real freedom began. 6 dumb young kids with no parents around. What could go wrong? So one of my friends sat up and said, What if we play hide and seek? That is the dumbest thing ever. How are we gonna play hide and seek in a cabin with 1 room? Not in the cabin, dummy, in the woods." We were all immediately down to play, but we peeked over at our counselor and could tell that he was either in a super deep sleep or he wasn't alive anymore. But either way, he wasn't waking up anytime soon. So we all tiptoed our way outside the cabin. We slipped onto the porch, and that's when something hit me. The darkness in the mountains is not the same as back home. Because when you're in the city, there's always some light, even in the middle of the night. Street lamps, porch lights, buildings, there's always some light coming from somewhere. But here, it was just black, which would be a very important detail that would get us into trouble later. We all pulled out our flashlights, keeping the lights low so our counselors couldn't see us from the main building. There were 6 of us in total. And when deciding who should be it first, everyone pointed at me. I agreed because low-key, hide and seek can be boring unless you're the one doing the seeking. There's nothing worse than playing hide and seek with someone who sucks at finding people. But no worries, because I was a beast at this game. Or so I thought. So I closed my eyes and started counting. 1, 2, 3. I could hear their footsteps scattering, fading into the distance. By 30 seconds, all I heard was crickets. 59, 60. Ready or not, here I come. After opening my eyes, reality started to hit me. I was completely alone in the pitch black forest with nothing but my tiny flashlight's little beam. All of a sudden, I was kind of terrified. I thought about quitting right away and walking back to the cabin, but that would have meant my friends would be hiding in the wilderness all alone for who knows long. So I had to find them. I started walking slowly, trying to listen for any whispers or movement I could hear. I'd creep up to a bush, shine my light behind it, and find nothing. After about 10 minutes of searching, something felt off. Like I said, I'm a beast at this game. I should have found someone by now. So I started looking around, trying to find areas that I haven't searched before, and then it hit me. I realized I couldn't see the light from our cabin anymore. What did that mean? I was lost. All the trees looked identical. I spun around slowly trying to find something familiar, but I couldn't. That first feeling of real panic hit my stomach like I just swallowed a piece of gum. So I said out loud, "Guys, game over. I quit." Expecting at least some of them to hear me and come out from their hiding spot, I got no response. I tried again. "Hello? Anyone?" I started walking in what I thought was the direction back to camp, but after a few minutes, I still couldn't see any sign of the cabins. All of a sudden, it was freezing cold and I was completely lost. After wandering around for what felt like forever, I slammed into something which made me scream. After a second of pure panic, I realized it was my friend Miguel. I'd never been so happy to see someone. Miguel seemed relieved to see me too, and he said, "Dude, where is everyone? I've been walking in circles for 20 minutes. I told him I had no idea and that I was lost too. So now that I had another person with me, I felt comfortable trying to find everyone else. But that's when we heard it. A scream from the depths of the forest. And not I just walked into a spiderweb scream. No, this was a scream of pure terror. Miguel and I instantly froze, staring at each other. Just like the night at his parents' house, I once again probably wet myself. Then it happened again. Another scream, louder this time. The sound bounced off the trees, coming from deeper in the woods. "What was that?" Miguel said. We didn't know what to do. Return to the cabin? Which direction was that? Everything blended into endless trees and darkness. Try finding our possibly in trouble friends? My heart was now pounding, but we made a decision. We needed to find our friends, and we didn't know how to get back to the cabin anyway, so we would go towards the screams. Although we both agreed, if anything goes south, it's every man for himself. There was one more scream that happened right after this, which was the loudest of them all, so that guided us in the right direction. All those stories about what lurks in the darkness at night crept into my mind. Because it could have been anything. A crazy person. A bear. Guy Fieri. After going towards the screams for a couple minutes, my flashlight started to flicker. So I knew we didn't have long to figure out what was happening before I completely went dark. Now it wasn't just a worry about whatever was screaming in the darkness. It was a race against time. Dude, I think we should go back. I started to think that was the rational thing to do too. The only problem was, which direction was back? The trees all looked identical. Massive pines watching over us like giants. Watching two stupid kids who were about to come a precautionary tale for the next year's students. So we figured our best bet was to keep following the screams, because we knew that at least wherever they were coming from, there must have been people over there. The woods transformed into an endless maze, each path looking deceptively familiar, yet at the same time, completely foreign. It was so damn bad, I tried using the science lesson they taught us earlier about using the location of the moon to know where you're going. The only problem was, I didn't pay no attention during that presentation, so we just kept heading towards the screams. My decision to go commando and wear nothing but a t-shirt and basketball shorts to bed was now backfiring, because I was freezing. Then a scream echoed again, bouncing in between the trees, sounding like someone was in pure danger. But this time, the scream sounded a lot closer, which was both encouraging and terrifying. Maybe it's a mountain lion. My cousin's neighbor got attacked by one last year in Colorado, Miguel said, because apparently what I needed to imagine was a predator stalking us. I don't know how he possibly could have thought that would reassure me or make the situation better, but it didn't, because one, that definitely sounded like a human scream, and two, if it is a mountain lion, we're cooked, and three, what do you mean your cousin's neighbor got attacked by one last year? But anyways, just as we're about to give up hope for the 20th time and accept that we're toast, something caught my eye. About 50 yards ahead stood a shape that was definitely not natural to the forest. It almost looked like a cabin, but at the same time, it was way too oddly shaped to be that. Miguel, do you see that? He squinted and said, "See what? I can barely see you and you're right next to me. There's something over there. It looks man-made." The beam of my flashlight barely reached it, but was able to confirm that it wasn't just more trees, although we still couldn't tell what exactly it was. We approached it cautiously, each crunch of leaves beneath our feet sounding incredibly loud in the quietness. The shape became clearer. It was a structure built into the side of the mountain. After getting closer, Miguel whispered, Is that a door?" We crept up a little more, and from the looks of it, we thought it was some type of bunker, with a small door in it that looks like it was made for a Smurf. Which is a problem for a guy like me, because I'm 6'8".
Hell no, man.
But the weird part was, we could smell something coming from it. Almost as if Someone was just in there. So we thought for sure whatever was making those noises was definitely inside there. We stood frozen about 20 feet from the creepy entrance, deciding what to do next. What kind of person builds a hidden bunker in the middle of the mountains? Was it like an end of the world type of thing? Was it for the military? And more importantly, what was making those screams that sounded terrified? Whatever it was, I didn't want to suffer the same fate, so I was reluctant to go inside there. The door had these weird carvings on them that we couldn't make out in the dark. Miguel kept squinting at them with his light, which was now flickering too like mine, but we still couldn't read it. The darkness beyond the entrance gave us no hint of what was inside. Do you think our friends might be hiding in there? Miguel asked. If they are, they probably ain't doing well based off those screams we heard earlier. I can tell you that. And then we heard another sound, which confirmed something was in there. But this time, it wasn't a scream. It was a laugh. Multiple laughing sounds. I didn't know whether to be reassured or terrified that someone was laughing in the middle of the woods at night, especially when they were just screaming 10 minutes ago. Like, are you having the time of your life in there, or are you terrified? Somehow the laughs felt even more creepy than the screams because it made no sense. Should we go in? I asked Miguel, even though every cell in my body was saying, no! You know what happens if you do that. Miguel looked at me as if I just suggested that we jump off a cliff. I ain't going in there first. I didn't blame him. I didn't want to go in first either. I low-key thought about just pushing him inside to test the waters, you know? No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I was really just thinking that we shouldn't even try going in at all. But then I thought about our friends. What if they needed help? What kind of friends would we be if we just left them here in the middle of the night? It's time to be brave. So I decided to be brave and stay. And I also had no idea how to get back to the cabin still, so this was our best chance at doing that. But yeah, mostly I was trying to get our friends back. Maybe we could just call out a noise, which is what Miguel suggested. And that seemed like a much better plan than my idea to sacrifice him by pushing him inside. We took a step closer, but not too close. Then Miguel said, okay, do you want to make the noise or me? And I volunteered. So with my chest puffed out, in my most intimidating voice possible, I went, hello? But my sound got no answer. As it goes back to complete silence, I hear, hey! Anybody in there? Miguel shouted that, making me jump. Don't know why he asked if I wanted to make the noise when he was planning on doing that the whole time, but that didn't make whatever was inside there come out either. Deciding what to do next, I then spotted a rock by my foot. Thinking of my previous experience in baseball, I said to Miguel, I'm gonna throw this at the door. Maybe it'll make whoever's in there hear us. So channeling my inner Shohei Ohtani, I chucked the rock at the door as fast as possible, probably around 7 miles per hour. And what happened? Nothing, because I missed the door. But then I tried again. And this time, I hit it. It made a loud knocking sound with an echo that seemed to go on forever. For a second, nothing happened. And then, silence. The complete kind that feels like someone just pressed mute on the whole forest. No crickets, no wind, nothing. Miguel and I exchanged looks at each other, and his eyes were just as wide as mine. But that's when we saw it. A flashlight turn on underneath the door. Someone was inside. Miguel whispered to me, we should run. As he was already backing up, all of a sudden, he didn't have the same toughness as 2 minutes ago when he was screaming for someone to come outside. But like I said, this was our best chance at getting some sort of answers. Then quickly, a beam of light shot out from the entrance, blinding us after all that darkness as the door opened. I threw my arms up, convinced that this was it. I thought we were about to be captured by some forest-dwelling psycho, and then a figure started to emerge. My stomach dropped, my throat was closed. Time seemed to stop. The person was tall and had to duck through the opening. We could only make out their silhouette because of their flashlight pointed towards us. I thought I was seeing Slenderman at first in the dark wilderness. I was about to sprint away because, remember, every man for himself like we talked about. But then the figure spoke. Well, well, well. What do we have here? I recognized that voice. The figure stepped fully out of the structure and aimed his flashlight away from us so we could finally see his face. So there I was, about to have a heart attack, when this figure shines the flashlight towards their face and reveals that it was a camp counselor. He was laughing his head off as we looked terrified. Turns out that weird bunker was the camp's echo chamber, which is a place they use to teach kids about sound waves. All those terrifying sounds we heard? Just him messing around testing the acoustics of it before he took the students to the place tomorrow. We explained everything that was happening and told him that we were lost. Of course, he knew his way back to the cabins, which literally took 5 minutes. Apparently, we were just wandering in circles the whole time, terrified over absolutely nothing. But wait, there was still a problem. Because our friends were still out here somewhere, right? No! When the counselor took us back to our cabin, you know where they were? Laying down in bed. Me and Miguel were the only ones that were still outside. Apparently, they got scared and cold after about 5 minutes and just gave up and went back. I'm real glad they decided to tell me and Miguel about that. The counselor promised that he wouldn't tell any of the other counselors or teachers about what happened if we just promised to stay in our cabin the rest of the trip. We happily agreed. I didn't learn anything about science that trip, but I did learn a super valuable lesson about not playing hide and seek in the woods.